What's up, vinyl community? It's your boy Chris, or as those of you who have followed me over from Instagram know me as @Tunes from the Man Cave. My own channel, obviously, if you subscribe, as @Tunes from the Man Cave. I promised you guys I would give you a little bit lighter of a video in between the segments or the parts of the Tales from the Nightclub series that I'm currently doing. Something where it's me kind of just freestyling a little bit more, kind of just talking off the cuff, giving you guys a few personal experience stories. So I thought a fun one to do today, to tide you over in between part 2 and part 3 of my series, is talking about finds from thrift stores, from you know, individual people, from dusty ass, you know, garages, from whatever, and then also show you some not so great ones too, just to have a little bit of fun, throw a few stories in. I'll start with I have one thrift store-ish in town, if you want to call it that. I live in a town, guys, of probably less than 3,000 people. Full disclosure, that's probably, I mean, I have no idea. It's an interstate town. I mean, if you want fast food, we got you covered. But if you want anything other than fast food, gas, or hotel lodging for the night, then you're SOL. For at least a few more exits. So just to let you know. But recently, I was bored on lunch break. I'm sure a lot of you guys can probably relate to this. I don't like to be in the building for lunch. I like to get the hell out of there. That's my 30 minutes. I like to not be near anybody. I like to have the time to myself, whether I just sit in my truck and read or whatever. But on this particular day, it was a hell of a day, and I didn't even want to be on the premises. So it's like, okay, I'm going to go drive and park somewhere. Then I thought to myself, okay, this thrift store, okay, you know, they're 2 minutes from here. I'll just go look around for a few and get my mind off of this. So I go in, and I go to their crate of records. And they've got one little crate of records over to the side. Everything's overpriced. Nothing's that great. But on this one particular day, I stumbled on The Impressions, People Get Ready. It was not an original press. It's not. But it was $5, and it was sealed. It's a I took it home, did my homework. It's a 1987 UK press. But again, $5 and sealed. I was so happy with that, I didn't know what to do. I was in a much better mood from that moment forth. So, something a little fun. I went back to work that day, again, in a better mood. So, that one was a pretty cool one to find here recently. Got a thrift store in Charlotte that I hit one particular day. It's one of those places that if you stop in every weekend, you're not going to find anything. For me, my MO is usually I step in about every 6 months. The guy who runs the place, who runs the booth in the thrift store, you know, goes out, he digs, you know, he restocks. But again, he's not replenishing with heat every weekend. And in the past, he has tended to be kind of high. But I always step in there a couple times a year. On this one particular day, I struck gold. Show you now. I had, on this particular day, I scored Ballads by John Coltrane. One of my all-time favorite Train records. I love it. It's in killer condition. And the price on that day, and again, I told you guys, he's tended to be high in the past. The price on that day, $15. I couldn't pass that up. It goes for way more. Obviously, you guys know. On that same day, I also scored Ascension. Also $15. Couldn't pass it up either. Stereo Press. And my master find of that day, for $5 more, but you guys will see in a minute. But my find of the day is Africa Brass. And the reason it's my find of the day is because it's an original mono press. for $5 more, $20. I see these things all the time go for sick cash. So I leave out of there that day, spent $50 and got 3 train heaters. So let's just say I could not have been more happy that day. But as I said, this is a place I tend to frequent only a couple of times a year, because if you go in every weekend, you're going to be freaking disappointed. That's all I'm going to say about that. So, fun story. As per my usual routine, I hit this place up about twice a year. So like 6 months later, I go back. I always go straight to the jazz section. If you go, this guy has an unbelievable tendency. And I'm not going to name drop here. I don't want to bash anybody. Especially, I have had some good deals here, but I don't want to bash anybody. But he has a massive tendency, if you're looking for anything classic rock or anything super common soul, he overprices the shit out of those things. And I can't figure out why. Like, I picked up a copy of Bob Dylan's New Morning one day, and it was $30. Who the hell pays $30 for Bob Dylan's New Morning? I don't even give a damn if it's sealed. It's not worth $30, at least not in my opinion. I'm not trying to shit on that album. It's a good album. It really is. But $30, I mean, you can damn near every time you go to the record store, if you go to the D section, you're probably going to find that record. I don't even think the MoFi copy goes for much more than $30 of that one. I don't think. So that was just insane. But again, he does that. Your super common, your Beatles, your Rolling Stones, your Eagles. Like, I saw Hotel California in there one day for like $18. That's freaking insane. That's one of the highest selling albums of all time, guys. You should never pay $10 for it. Ever. And for any of you guys here who have paid more than $10 for it, I'm sorry. That's just my opinion. You don't pay 10 or more for an album that sold like 30 million copies worldwide. You just don't. They're plentiful. They're out there. You're not going to have a hard time finding them. So anyway, I straight off. About 6 months later, I go back. And I find another few jazz heaters. For starters, Prayer Meeting, Jimmy Smith, Stanley Turrentine. Outstanding. Now, it's a Liberty Press. It is. It's a Liberty Press stereo, but it's in wonderful condition. And it was $10. No split seams. No nothing like that. No skips. Not really much. Not any surface noise, if I can remember correctly. And it was $10. And even the Liberty Presses of these are going to go for a little more than $10. I mean, Jimmy Smith records don't go for what Train records go for, but they're almost always great. And $10 for, for a Blue Note, that's a good day for me. That's always a good day. Next up, same day, this one was $12. Jimmy Smith, The Sermon. And it's an original mono pressing. New York labels. I don't know if I can get in close enough for you guys. This is a killer record. It's got Lee Morgan, Lou Donaldson, George Coleman, Tina Brooks, Kenny Burrell, Eddie McFadden, Art Blakey, and Donald Bailey. So an absolutely phenomenal record. You cannot go wrong with it. I love it. And my find of the day, for that particular day, because it's from my second favorite jazz pianist of all time, and one of the most, in my opinion, one of the most consistent jazz artists of all time. By that meaning, never made a bad album. So therefore, always my favorite guys. Even his 70s shit is good. Yeah. A lot of the, my favorite, your favorite 50s and 60s jazz artists, fell off in the 70s because they were just trying to keep up, and it just didn't work out. But my find of that day, Horace Silver, Song for My Father. And this is an original mono press as well. Got the New York labels, the whole nine. It sounds great. Nothing wrong with the noise. No split seams. It's phenomenal. And it was also $12. So, spend $35. Come out with an original mono silver, an original mono Smith, and a Liberty Smith. I was pretty damn happy. Let's just say that. So, several times, it hasn't really happened that much lately. It hasn't really happened much since I got off of Facebook. I got off Facebook about a year ago. That's another story for another day. This is not a drama Facebook video. This is a vinyl community video. But when I was on Facebook, every so often, I would have people drop me messages, put something on my wall, put something in my messenger, and it would always be something along the lines of, "Hey, Chris, I got a box of records or whatever. They're really good. You should come over and take a look at them. It's really good stuff," and yada, 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 yada. And a lot of times, especially at the very beginning, if it was an elderly person, somebody a little older, or somebody like, "Hey, this is my grandmother's," and they lived in the area, they weren't that far away, I wasn't really expecting to see anything good. Not usually, but I'm a Southern boy. Respect your elders. So I'd go. I'd be like, "Sure, I'll stop by. I got 15 minutes. And more often than not, what you got was Bing Crosby, Christmas albums, or, some Sinatra, which, I really do dig Sinatra, so that's okay. But, it's not blowing your mind. I mean, Sinatra made so many damn albums that they're not really worth much. In this one particular day, I go and I look in this lady's house, and she's just got nothing. I hate to say it, because she's a super nice lady. I've known her most of my life. And I didn't want to leave out of there with anything and with nothing and hurt her feelings. So you guys are going to laugh. What do we always joke about being super common, guys? Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass. As collectors, that's like our go-to when we talk about, man, this place just had nothing. It just had like some Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass. That's what we joke about. But again, I wanted to be nice to the lady. She's always been nice to me. And I didn't want to leave with nothing. I didn't want to hurt her feelings. So I picked up these $4 albums. Gave her $10. Overpaid. But again, I didn't want to be rude. And, I kind of just told her that the rest of them, was just really stuff that I didn't want. And, I appreciated it, and maybe I could find somebody to look for. I did contact a couple of people, but I'm not going to lie to them either. They asked me what she had, and I told them. And so I don't know if anybody ever went and looked or not, but I'm not going to bullshit anybody. So that's the way that was. And another scenario, this one's actually might be even worse. I've went to people's houses before, by the way, and found nothing. They told me, "Hey, Chris, come on down." So after about 2 or 3 times of that happening, I started asking people to specify. What do you have? What do you have? I know you're super close, but what do you have? Give me an idea. So my aunt, a couple of years ago, calls me and tells me, "Hey, you should come by the house or whatever. I've got a box. It's got some really awesome records in it. It's got a lot of good stuff." And so I asked her to specify. She goes, "Well, I don't know off the top, but all the good stuff, all the stuff you hear on the radio, all the good stuff." Yeah, she's the mother of my cousin, who I think if you guys have seen a prior video, passed away last year. Like a brother to me. So I thought, if nothing else, if he'll be there, if I can schedule a night, he'll be there. Well, hell, we'll hang out. And if I can't find anything, well, we'll just hang out and drink a few beers, and it'll still be a blast. So we made that happen. But I go and I look for the records, and I go look through the box, and to say that I was disappointed was a massive understatement. Again, Bing Crosby shit. It's a bunch of Elvis records that are beat to hell. Again, I mean, that's like the best thing that was in there is the Elvis records, and they were beat to all hell. I mean, they were scratches and scuffs and split seams, and then even then it wasn't like his best albums. It was like the movie soundtracks. But still, it's a scenario where if everything was in really good condition, I probably would have taken them home, because why not? But anyway, so I go through all this, and I tell her, I said, some of these I have, and some of them I just flat out don't want. And some of them, I said, I'm just going to be honest with you, they're Goodwill records. They're the kind of, she's like, "Well, what do you mean by Goodwill records?" I'm like, worth less than $1. So they're Goodwill records. the only thing I brought home that night. I think I might have hurt her feelings. I didn't try to. I mean, I hung out that night. We had dinner. We had some laughs, but I think I probably inadvertently hurt her feelings. But I was just trying to be honest with her. The only thing that I ended up bringing home, you guys are going to laugh. It's an album with JFK's, some JFK speeches on it. Not worth anything. The only reason I grabbed it and brought it home with me is because I am a huge JFK enthusiast. I've got probably 50 or 60 books on the man. I'm a huge admirer of his work and what could have been. And so I gave her $10. It's, again, I'm sure it's not worth $10. Told her thank you. I appreciated it. Stayed, hung out, and brought this home. I've never listened to it. I thought it was cool to add to my JFK collection, and so that's why I have it. But again, just giving you guys some ideas of how you can strike out, and I'm sure a lot of you know. All right, so another time, and this is after these two occasions and a couple of other times that I had been and gotten burned to people who had called me, and I was just trying to be nice. Old friend of mine, more so of an acquaintance, really. If you go to a small school in a small community like the one I grew up in and the one I still live in, everybody knows everybody. If you see a kid and you don't know them, it's their first day at school, second day at school. By the third day, you know them, or you at least know who they are. Even the shy kids who hung out in the corner, you know who they are too, because that's just the school. She sends me a message on Facebook. Again, I knew who she was. She knew who I was. She knew enough to know that I like records. She sends me a message on Facebook saying that her father-in-law, not her father-in-law, I'm sorry, her stepfather, for years and years and years would hit every thrift store, every garage sale, every yard sale, and buy up every album they had, because that was his get-rich plan. That was his, he was going to quit his job and he was going to sell these records, and it was his get-rich-quick scheme. And of course, his wife and everybody thought he was crazy. Like, this is before the vinyl explosion. So everybody obviously thought he was crazy, because back then, before they exploded again, let's just be honest, you couldn't really get much for these things. So they thought he was crazy. And she told me that he had a huge shed full of records. And I asked her what was in there. She told me she didn't know. She didn't know anything about records, and they were difficult to get to, and that, if I didn't mind, please come take a look at them. And I was like, okay, well, why the urgency? Unfortunately, her stepfather had passed away. I can't remember the exact details, but he had passed away, and they were just looking to unload them. And they wanted to bring somebody over there who could help them sort it out. So I was like, okay. I'm not expecting that much, but at this moment, I'm just wanting to help. And I said, okay. I said, I'll come by. I'll take a look. I'll let you know what it is you've got that's worth selling. I'll let you know what you've got that you can't sell. And I'll let you know what you've got that's just trash. And you're not going to be able to sell it even if you wanted to, and maybe you just need to throw it away. So I'll come by and I'll help you sort it out. So what I do is I grab 3 boxes. I label as can sell, can't sell, and Goodwill. 3 Home Depot size boxes. You guys have probably used something similar to move if you've ever had to move your records before. So that's what I'm thinking. That was very cute. Because every time I've ever been told, hey, yeah, I've got like 1,000 of them, I get there and I got 100. So I'm thinking it's probably something similar. She told me she had a shed full, but I'm like, okay, so she's probably got 1,000. So these 3 boxes are to do the trick. Guys, I get there, I open the shop, and there are boxes stacked on top of boxes, wall to wall. I wish I still had the picture so I could show you guys. It was unfreaking believable. A lot of them I had to use a ladder. They were stacked so high. I had to use a ladder to unload these boxes, and then they were full of records. I'm talking about boxes that big, full of records. If I had to pull an estimate out, I'd say probably about 40,000. It's the most I've ever seen in such a small spot. It blew my freaking mind. So immediately I think about the 3 boxes I brought. And I'm like, holy shit, this is not going to be enough. So I told her, I said, this is quite, I said, I'm not going to be able to do this for you in 20 minutes. I'm not. I said, I'm sorry, I just can't. So she asked me, she says, are you saying you don't want to do it? I said, no, that's not what I'm saying. I said, I can't do it for you today. There's too many to go through and I'm only one man. I said, I tell you what if you were to give me permission to come by here anytime I have some free time, let your neighbors know so I'm not scaring the shit out of them. And look, anytime, I said, I will get this done for you. It might take me a couple of weeks, but I will get it done. You live close enough to where I can swing by kind of frequently. Spare hour here, spare hour there, I can get it done. And she goes, okay, that's fine. And she handed me the key to the shop. She just tells me, don't lose it. I'm like, fine, I won't lose it. I'll return it to you as soon as I'm done sorting all this out. And I'm thinking, how the hell am I going to do this? And so she asked me what I wanted to help her. I said, I don't want anything. I just want to help you out. And she goes, well, I can't just give you nothing. This is a lot of work. She said, what about 20% of whatever we sell? I told her that's too much. I said, no, I don't want all that. That's fine. She says, how about you go through there, and if there are records that you don't have that you want, how about you just take them as your payment? I said, really? Are you sure? She said, yes, I'm sure. If you see them, you don't have them, and you want them, just take them home. I'm like, okay, great. That's great. That's you got a deal. And I totally, did the right thing by them. If there were records I didn't have that I wanted, I did put them in my own box. But if I wanted to, I could have made a killing because they had plenty of copies of Led Zeppelin albums and Michael Jackson albums and all of those, $10 a record. So if I wanted to, and their albums I already had, if I wanted to be an asshole, I could have boxed them up, took them home, put them on eBay and made a killing and totally screwed these people. But that's not the way I'm made. If I knew they were worth something, I put them in the worth something boxes, which ended up being dozens by the time I was done, by the way. So anyway, I go through. It takes me weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And fortunately enough for me, the guy did have some organization about him. He would put all of his gospel records would be in one box, where it ended up being dozens. All of his orchestra records, again, you guys know you can't sell that shit. Nobody's going to buy it. Those are Goodwill records. Would be in boxes. So I would just, label them, stick them to the side. So a lot of them, like the ones that were full of orchestra records, I just labeled the whole damn box Goodwill and put it in the back of my truck. And I was, dropping these records off to Goodwill for them as I was going. As I was working on the project, I should say. But then I would get the boxes that were full of Led Zeppelin. And I think this guy might have had 30 copies of Thriller by Michael Jackson, which again is one of the highest selling albums of all time, but it's still $10 a pop. So if you got 30 of them, you guys do the math. But at the time, believe it or not, I had no Prince albums in my collection. So I dig through and I get to a box that's got a bunch of soul and some funk. And I start getting to a section and find these. Batman soundtrack. Self-titled. Record is funky as hell. I love this record. You guys know what this one is. One of his best. Obviously. Sign of the Times. This one. I hadn't looked at these records in a while. 12-inch single. 1999. Again, you guys know what this is. The one I was happiest to get, Purple Rain. Parade was one that I was really happy to get. And again, it's not one of his better, it's not one of his best. It's still pretty damn good, but it's not one of his best. But I was so excited to get it because it reminded me of my parents because it has Kiss on it. And every time I grew up, the song Kiss would come on. My mom and dad would sing it to one another, make the faces and everything. And so it's always been funny. And every time I hear the song, I think of my parents. So, and I know every word. I love it. And then, 12-inch, I Would Die For You. So I got all of that Prince for free. And when I mentioned for free one time to somebody said, how many hours would you say you spent in that shed? I was like, shit, I don't know. A lot. And they're like, well, it wasn't free. You know, this labor, you know, you weren't making a salary. So I thought about it that way. And I'm like, you know what? That's fair enough. But, you know, again, I brought home these. I brought home some Elton Johns I didn't have. I brought home some Billy Joel's I didn't have. By that point, I had all the Led Zeppelin. So I brought home, you know, a good size box of stuff I didn't have that didn't cost me anything but some sweat, a lot of sweat, because it was in the middle of summer, by the way. Miraculously, guys, these were all in good shape. Don't freaking ask me how. I have no idea. The shop had leaks in it. There were spiders, webs everywhere. I was batting away spiders. I hate spiders. I freaking hate spiders. They scared the shit out of me. I hate them. And it was just, man, it was toe up. I was stepping over. The first or second day I was in there, I accidentally stepped on a nail, and I was wearing Chucks. So obviously, nail right through my foot. I didn't make that mistake again. The next time, thank God I'd had a tetanus shot recently, by the way. The next time I came in steel toes. And every time I came back from that moment on, steel toes. I'm like, okay, this shit ain't happening again. This place was toe up. Again, I really wish I still had the pictures. I took a lot of pictures. And I boxed everything up. I got it settled. I got it narrowed down to where they probably had about 15,000 records left. And I had them all in boxes organized. You know, I put stickers on each one of them telling her what I thought they were worth. And so then she asked me for my advice. And she's like, well, how do we sell these? I said, well, you got two routes. You can order a shitload of mailers, and you can post them all on eBay. She's like, well, what do I do when people buy them? She really just didn't know anything about this stuff, guys. Like, a lot of people don't. I told her, I said, well, you need to package them up really nice. You need to drop them off at the post office, and you need to sell them. And she was like, well, how long do you think that could take? I'm like, this many records, I mean, feasibly, that could take years. It could. And she's looking at me. You can tell she's not wanting to spend that much time on it. She goes, well, what's the other option? I said, sell the whole lot, one time. And she's like, how much do you think I could get for them? I'm like, well, probably not as much as you think you're going to get for them, because whoever takes them on is going to have the space. They might have to rent a shed. You know, I might have to get a storage facility. They might have to something to make it all happen. So I can call a few people. I know some people. And they're either going to want to know what you have, or they're going to want to talk to me, or they're going to want to come down here and look, and then they'll make you an offer. But it's going to be a lot less than what they're all worth individually, but at least you get them out of here. And she's like, okay, I'd be interested in that route. So I contacted a couple of people, told them what she had, told them about how many she had, and they responded back with a couple of offers. You know, they took my word for it because they knew me. They didn't feel like they needed to come down there and thumb through. You know, they asked me what she had. They knew how much time I'd spent on it. And let's just say she was not happy with the offers. So she wasn't happy with the offers at all. She was thinking she was going to really make thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And I was just telling her, when you're selling a lot, it just doesn't work that way, because you have to take into account what the people have to do just to be able to pick them up and store them. So she wasn't happy with the offers. She told me she would, you know, maybe try the eBay thing, or maybe try a storage facility thing. Excuse me, a storage facility. Maybe try a few yard sales, yada, 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 yada. So I think she did try a few yard sales. She did sell some of them. She thanked me for my time, you know, and everything. But last I checked, because I had called one day just to see what was still going on, asking if she needed some help selling them. She goes, you know, actually my mom came back and got them all and put them in a storage unit. And the last I checked, that's where they were. So I was bummed out, because I felt like, I put in a lot of work, and at the end of the day, I didn't get them all sold for them. So always kind of bummed me out. But gonna have to make some more, make a contact here soon. I'd like to know what did happen to all of them. I did send right before I got off Facebook, I did send a Facebook message saying, vinyl's really booming right now. Now would be the time to really, get back after them. And I never got a response. It showed me where it had been seen, but I never did get a response. So I don't know. I think she was just kind of depressed by the offers that came in. She really thought she was going to make thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And unfortunately, that's just what people think. You know, that's what they think. You know, it's like you ever been in a record store and see somebody come in front of you and drop their records off to be bought, and it's like a whole bunch of Elvis movie soundtracks, and they're thinking, oh, this is Elvis Presley, this is the king of rock and roll, this has got to be worth hundreds. I'll give you $5 for it. And a lot of times you watch somebody in front of you get screwed by the owner of the store, because they know they take a look, they can profile, they know who they can screw and who they can't. But in this circumstance, they're not screwing people. That's what they're worth. Well, he's like the king of rock and roll. He's the greatest selling musician. And then they stop him. They're like, that right there, what you just said. He's the greatest selling musician ever, which I don't know if he still is. There are millions of these. That's why it's not worth that much. You know, people leave out of there all pissy, or, you know, either that or they get their money and they leave out of there all pissy. Either way about it. But that's just the way it is. And, you know, far too often you see a lot of people who just don't know what stuff goes for, very depressed about it. But anyway, I wanted to take this video, share a few stories with you guys, you know, of some of my finds out in the wild, or, you know, thrift stores, and, you know, some stuff that I didn't buy on eBay, or I didn't buy from individual sellers that I know that are friends of mine. And just give you a little segue, something a little more lighthearted in between my segments, my parts of my Tales from the Nightclub series. By the way, I've gotten some great feedback on that. I hope you guys are enjoying it. So until part 3, which I'm going to do on the legendary Clifford Brown, keep dropping that needle, you guys.